Our architecture policy, it was the first one that was adopted by a city council in Denmark in 1979. So now it's 20 years ago. And I think in the beginning, nobody really understood what it was all about. Maybe not even myself when I look back. But it was some ideas that we'll use architecture as kind of a booster of the development of the city. But in the beginning, it was more to make the city more beautiful and so. But after 2, 3, 4 years, we saw that there are a lot of money in good architecture. So it was a big change indeed in that time. And over the years, we have been working much more also about city strategy and much more about planning. And so it's very mixed what we call architecture, planning, city strategy, and climate changes, environment, and everything. So it's a big mix, but the architecture is a kind of a headliner for all what we are doing in this field. It was the meaning that every city council, when we have this election every 4 years, every new city council should adapt the architecture policy. But it has never happened for this 20 years, and I think it was not needed. Because it was so many things going on that, and it was a kind of a culture, a kind of a mentally process in a lot of politicians and also the staff, not only in the technical department, but in culture, social welfare and something, when they are building some new buildings. So it's not necessary to make a new one. And the last 5 years, I think we have talked about to make it a new, because there are a lot of new words and something, but it's still the same. But the way of thinking is going on. I think it was to write this architecture policy because I wrote it, and it was the first in Denmark, who knows, maybe in the world, because it's only in Denmark and also Finland, a little Sweden and Norway, where the cities are working with this. So this way of thinking architecture as a process, I think it has been important. It is that just in this year it's growing rather much with a lot of new citizens. It's maybe 1.2% a year that are growing. So maybe in the next 10, 20 years there will be a lot of new citizens. And I think this is the main task is to develop the cities, so you have the space, new apartments, new houses for the citizens, but also all the service like schools, kindergarten and houses for elderly will be in a good connection. There are some industrial areas, as we have a harbor, industrial harbor. It's under transformation to city area, and there could be 1,000 houses more than today. But there are also a lot of people that would like more to live in a one-family house, and we also taking new land to make new houses. So it's both. Some of the cities, but it's luckily they have also made their own policy, because the cities are different, and it can be different questions or problems that you are going to solve by this architecture way of thinking. And maybe of these 25 cities, you could put them in maybe 5 different categories, and it depends if it's a very old city, maybe a new city, or if it's Copenhagen, a very huge city. So it's different. If it was in Denmark, I would say that you should be more focused on these architectural jobs that are in the municipalities, because you have a very big influence and you are working much more with the architecture than the young students at the School of Architecture think. Because maybe a lot of them would like to make new music houses or by big, or I don't know where they want to. But there's a lot of very fun jobs in municipalities where you can yeah, also make a lot of things with architecture. And I think when I have been here in Bucharest for nearly 40 years ago and 20 years ago and this time. And I can see a huge development. And what I talk about this investment from a city, if you make a new pedestrian street, and I have been in Lipskan, the street Lipskan. I remember 20 years ago, a lot of cars, no people, nothing. And today it's new paving, a lot of new buildings, also still some old ones not refurbished, but a lot of cafes, bookshops, museums, and I think it's exactly the same strategy as I talked about in Vejle. So you can do a lot of things here.